Hi, I'm Scott and welcome back to my shop. In this video, we're going to do an unboxing and a quick setup of the Pro Mount Carving Stand by Woodcut Tools. So keep watching.
Scott's Mini Woodshop is sponsored by you, the viewer. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thanks for watching.
I was contacted by Dan Hewitt of Woodcut Tools, and he asked me if I wanted to try out their carving stand. So, of course I said yes. So we made arrangements with Todd Raines at the Woodturning tool store, and he's a distributor for Woodcut Tools, and they sent me out this Pro Mount carving stand to test out. So let's take it out of the box and put it all together and see what it's all about. All right, so let's open up the box, and the first thing we're going to find is the instruction manual. Okay, so just do yourself a favor, read the instruction manual. There's lots of good information in here, and it'll show you how everything works and how everything goes together, with one exception, and I'll cover that in just a second, okay? So we're going to take the instructions, we're going to put them over here. On page 3 of the instructions, it'll show you what's supposed to be inside your box. Now you'll see I have one thing that's missing here, which is an option that was not sent out to me. I don't need it. So, but for some people who would use that, I'd go here, and that would be a faceplate. Okay, so, but we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so here we have, this is going to be the base plate, okay, or the bench stand plate. And this is how you can mount this whole thing on the bench. And this, let me get this out of the box. This is going to be the chuck spindle. Okay, so this is going to be mounted on the main tool, and then you can screw your chuck onto this piece. Okay, and you also note that there's a hole through it. So if you have a vacuum chuck, you can attach a vacuum attachment here, and then you can actually use your vacuum chuck to hold your piece on this Pro Mount carving stand. This is going to be the main body, okay, or what they call the clamp body in the instructions, all right? And then we have the tool post. Now on the tool post, there's a collar, okay, and then there's a wrench, so you can loosen up the collar, and you can set that collar to a height. So if you do put this in your banjo, all right, you can then have a repeatable height, which is pretty cool. And you can see what was hiding underneath of that collar. There's a hole, okay, in this post. And another thing that you get is this steel rod. Now this steel rod is going to act as a Tommy bar, okay, so you can tighten this post into the main body of the clamp, and also into the base if you're going to use it. Okay, now that we have all the pieces identified, let's get this thing together. Okay, so putting this together, I'm going to take the post, and I'm going to screw it into the main body of the clamp. And then I'm going to take that Tommy bar, and I'm going to torque this just nice and tight. Okay, now you could have just clamped this in your banjo, and you probably could have got it nice and snug as well. Okay, now we're going to put the collar on, and I'm just going to tighten it at some random height, just for now. Okay, and then there's these two levers, right? You can see this one, as it loosens up, it actually extends where this ring is, and that's where this part is going to go in, the chuck spindle, right? And then you can see as you tighten that again, it'll hold that in place. Here you can see I have the carving stand mounted up on my banjo, and the way I have it set up here, it's going to give us movement on 3 separate axes. And the first one we're going to talk about is the one that's where the tool post is, and that's being held in by this clamp here on the banjo. So I'm just going to loosen that up, and you can see now I can spin the whole tool completely around. And once I get in the position that I like, I'm just going to tighten up that clamp on the banjo and then lock that into place. Okay, the next one is going to be this outside lever. Okay, and this is the way it came out of the box. And I'll show you how to adjust this outside lever if you want it facing down. Okay, but for now, we're going to leave it the way it came. All right, and I'm going to pull that towards me. Okay, and that just loosens that up. And with that loose, you're going to see I'm going to be able to turn the chuck and then line up my work so I can carve, right? And once I have it in the position I'm going to want, I'm just going to tighten that back up again, okay? And that'll lock that into place, all right? And so now the third axis that we're going to talk about, or the third axis that I'm going to talk about, and we're going to loosen up this again, okay? And then we're going to loosen up this second lever, okay? Just a little bit, and that's going to let us tilt, okay? We're going to let us tilt. Okay, and once we get the chuck in the position that we want, we're going to grab that inside lever and tighten it up. Okay, and then grab that outside lever and tighten it up. Okay, and now it's all locked into place. So then you could then carve, you know, with it in this position, you know, or whatever position that you set it in. So that's how this is going to work. The three different axes that you can adjust and how the levers work. Okay, so, but if you want this lever facing down for whatever reason, you know, just say this is like you figure this is in your way or you want it down, well, let's just take this and we're going to pull it towards us to loosen it up. All right. And I'm just going to loosen up a little bit. All right. And then I'm going to pull this completely out. Okay. So we've now taken the chuck spindle completely out, and I'm going to take this ring and I'm just going to loosen this up until the ring clears the slot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that 180 degrees, all right, and then slide it back in the slot and then tighten this up. And you'll see that's just going to make this lever line up with the other one, okay, or mostly line up with it, right? And if we put that spindle back in there, it should line up with it pretty close, right? So we'll take that chuck spindle, put it back in. Okay, so now you can see the handles kind of line up. If you like it that way, you know, then it will be kind of just like everything's being pushed away, right? That's loose, okay? And then this one will be pushed away to be loose, all right? And we can tighten them both back up again, all right? If you like it that way, if you like it the other way. Okay, so you saw me make it so we made the outside handle face down, and you could do exactly the same thing if you want them both to face up. And just real quick, we're gonna loosen this up. All right, enough that we can take out the chuck and the spindle. All right, and what we're going to do is just loosen this up. You know, then we're going to rotate this ring another 180 degrees. Okay, and then they get that mostly tightened up. All right, or somewhat tightened up. And then we're going to loosen the inner one. All right, and then I'm just going to turn this whole piece out here. All right, just 180 degrees, right? So then you'll see that the handle now is going to face up, right? All right, so now this one, because I switched it around, it's going to face down, right? So now if I wanted them both to face up, I would just have to pull this out. And then once again, just turn this around 180 degrees. All right, we'll put the chuck spindle back in. And then you can see they both face up. Now that might be, you know, good for you because that way you'll be able to pull them to loosen and push to tighten. It really comes down to personal preference and how you want to do it. You know, by default, right out of the box, the inner handle for me was facing down, the upper handle was facing up. But now you can see it's really not all that hard to put them however you want. It's like really customizable. That's very cool. The bench stand, okay, so here, let me put that out in front, okay? The bench stand. Now, this is a plate that you can either mount to the wall or to your workbench, and it's threaded, so you can thread the bottom post of this carving stand, or the Pro Mount carving stand, either onto a workbench or, you know, on the wall or somewhere else that you want to have it if you don't want to mount it in your lathe. So I think that's pretty handy. And there's an optional feature, which I don't have, that will replace the chuck spindle. And it's called a carving plate. And basically it's just a face plate with a post on it that will just replace this. So you could just mount a piece to that face plate and you can use that for your carving. So if that's something that you think you might need, it's something you definitely want to check into. So that's the basics of this. So let's mount a chuck on here and a turned piece, and let's give it a try. I have a bowl mounted in my chuck, and yes, it had been previously turned, but we're going to pretend that I just finished turning it, and now I'm going to want to carve on the exterior of this bowl. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my tool rest and get that out of the way. And then I will take my carving stand and I'm going to drop it right in where the tool rest was in the banjo. Okay, and I'm just going to loosely tighten this. I don't know what angle I'm going to want yet, so I'll just leave that relatively loose. And I'm just going to slide this slightly out of the way. Okay, and then I'm going to loosen or remove the chuck off my spindle. Okay, and I am going to do that by turning the hand wheel, not the chuck, because I don't want to mess up the threads. You know, the weight of the chuck could damage the threads if you don't hold it properly. And now I am going to thread this right on to the Pro Mount carving stand. All right, there we go. Now, if this bowl had been freshly turned and I needed to get it back on the lathe, I could just unscrew the chuck off the Pro Mount and I could put it right back on the lathe, and it still should be, you know, running true because I never removed it from the chuck. So that's really a cool feature. Okay, so you can see I have the Pro Mount here all adjusted so I can do some fine texturing on the side of this bowl here, and I'm just using a very small V-groove gouge, and I'm just doing some random straight lines to just give this a nice little texture on the side, and it would take me a very long time to complete this, so we're not going to do that today, but you get the idea. And if I needed to then move on to a different section, I just have to loosen the handle and then rotate the piece, tighten the handle back down again, and then I can get back to work. Okay, so there you go. An unboxing, you know, setup, and a real quick look at the Woodcut Tools Pro Carving Stand. This is just an absolutely fantastic addition to your arsenal if you plan on doing any carving at all on your turnings. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's got the 3-axis adjustment and easy adjustment just with levers that are on the piece, or one that's going to be in your banjo if you're using the swivel that would be, you know, provided by the collar. So yeah, this is really great, really easy to use. I don't have a vacuum chuck, but I can imagine with that vacuum attachment, that's just got to be absolutely brilliant, right? You know, what's funny is while I was actually just doing some of the sample carving, I mean, so many ideas running through my head about different ways that I could use this on different projects that I have planned, and some other new ones that I just thought up on the fly. So a very cool piece of kit. So if you're in the market for a carving stand, definitely give this a look. It's a very cool piece of equipment. So that's going to do it for this one. Big thank you to Woodcut Tools and the Woodturning Tool Store for sending me out this awesome piece of kit. It's just really an amazing product. So I can definitely see it being used in many of my projects here in the shop. So leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought of the video. Tell me what you think of the carving stand. I'd like to hear your thoughts. So please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. All those things help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you next time in Scott's Mini Woodshop. And have a great day.